If you're finished with the warm-up, awesome. If not, go ahead and get it finished. It is participation points, like I said. All right. Today is January 16th. Can't believe we're already this fast into the month. Our topic for today is Gettysburg. We're going to look at a really quick overview of the battle. And then after that, we're going to look at what's more important is what happened after the battle. All right. So let's take a quick look at this video. All right, 3 minutes on. What was the Battle of Gettysburg? If I get myself
referred to as the turning point. In history, wars are often huge turning points, and within wars, battles often act as turning points that dictate the outcome of those wars. One battle that historians often refer to as the turning point of the Civil War was the Battle of Gettysburg. If the Union had lost this battle, the U.S. might look very different today. Thought Monkey here. Today we'll be reviewing a major battle in the Civil War, the Battle of Gettysburg. It was in spring 1863, when the Civil War was nearing the end of its third year, that the general of the Confederate Army, Robert E. Lee, had just defeated a key Union force twice the size of Lee's. After the battle, Lee rode down to Richmond to speak with the President of the Confederacy, Jefferson Davis, to discuss his plans to invade the North. At the same time, Union President Abraham Lincoln was becoming frustrated by the fact that Lee was making every Union general out to seem incompetent. Lincoln's best general, however, Ulysses S. Grant, was starting the 40-day siege of Vicksburg, which would ultimately shut down the Mississippi River and stop any transportation by it to the south. The question remains, however, who was going to stop Lee, and by June 1863, where was he? In Washington, there were reports of Lee crossing the Potomac River and marching into Northern Territory, preparing to invade southern Pennsylvania. At the same time, another Confederate cavalry was riding into Pennsylvania from the east. When these words reached the north, many began to panic. Many people living in southern Pennsylvania began to flee, and in the small town of Gettysburg, the community waited anxiously. At this point, Lincoln made a change of command and appointed George Meade as the new general of the Union Army on June 27, and his first day of battle, which would take place in Gettysburg, was just 4 days away. It's rare that a commander of the army has such a short amount of time to prepare. Meade knew something was stirring and wrote to his wife before the battle stating, "Lee has assumed the offensive and is going to strike a blow." By June 30th, both Confederate and Union armies had settled into the positions at Gettysburg. Both armies numbered around 75,000. Over the next 3 brutal days, the armies would clash, making it one of the largest battles ever fought in the Western Hemisphere. Both the Union and Confederate armies suffered great losses over those 3 days, and between 20,000 to 25,000 soldiers were hurt or killed on each side. But it was the Union that would come out victorious. Several months later, Abraham Lincoln traveled to Gettysburg to help make a dedicated national cemetery there. It was there that he stated,
7 years ago, our fathers transformed from this continent a new nation, conceived in the liberty and dedicated to this opposition that all men are created equal.
All right, and that's where we're at, because that's what actually we're going to pick up with our lesson for today. But in a nutshell, Gettysburg, all right, was kind of the last push of the South trying to attack in the North. How many of you, and you can be honest with me, how many of you today have thought about the war in Ukraine or the war in Israel?
I ain't gonna ever think about it a little bit. I'm thinking about it a little bit. You gotta think about it. Don't they still gotta go to school and all that? Like,
Ooh, yeah. Do the kids still have to go to school? How does it affect their daily lives?
they got all these missiles going on and all that. And they striking on the daily. It ain't like one
Right.
day they got missiles and the next day they don't.
And that's been for, what, 2 years now? So do you stop going to school for 2 years because there's a war going on, or does life continue on as normal? Hey, so it's really interesting that you think that way, because you know, this is really the purpose of the southern push into Gettysburg is, if this war is happening 5,000 miles away, you're not going to really think about it. But if there's shooting going on like right here, it's going to be the first thing on your mind, right? So the South was trying to make a statement with this Gettysburg of, hey, it's time that the North face some suffering as well, right? They have to think about this war as well, all right? Anybody ever watch football?
Yeah.
Did you watch any games this weekend?
I ain't getting.
Did you see that Bills, anything
Yeah, I
on
heard
TikTok
that.
or anything?
Oh, the TikTok?
The Bills game?
What's up, Bill? No, I ain't see Bill game.
The snow was like above the
Oh.
seats. People had to like push through the snow to dig out their own seat and then sit in the snow. Well, I wouldn't do it.
But you gotta think, when you pay that much money for a Super Bowl ticket, you might as well.
Right. Why would you do that? Right. But with Gettysburg, if you think about a football stadium, that holds usually about 90,000 people. So in 4 days, 50,000 people were killed. So over half of that football stadium gone, wiped out. Right? Think about all of them had family, all of them had wives, some of them had children. Right? They had parents, they had brothers and sisters. 50,000 people killed in 4 days. About 26,000 from the south, right, and 24,000 from the north. Okay, so pretty equally split. A lot of people died. Right? So this really is the turning point of the Civil War because it's the last big push into the north, and it's really the last big push by the south. After this point, they're kind of running with their tails tucked, with the north chasing them. All right, and we're going to talk about another guy tomorrow, Sherman. All right, that helped kind of finalize that.
So wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
So did they basically like stop fighting against them, but they kept on fighting them?
No, the fighting still continued from both sides, but because of supplies and because of leadership, they try to go south. The Southern Confederates tried to go back into the South and kind of regroup and re-strengthen, and the North just continued to chase and push them. All right, so what we're going to look at today, like I said, is this thing called the Gettysburg Address. This is a speech by President Lincoln. How long do you think it takes a president to write a speech?
Probably about 13 minutes.
Or their writers to write a speech? A few days, a couple hours,
2 days.
10 minutes. The story goes with the Gettysburg Address that Lincoln, he had thought about this for days. All right, he gave this a few days after the Gettysburg battle. All right, he had thought about this speech, but he didn't write it until he was actually on the train on the way. All right. Have you ever listened to a presidential speech, like watch TV and seen a speech by president? Was it like boring or was it long?
It was long.
Long? Yeah. Some stuff can be interesting, and even as a history guy, like sometimes it's hard for me to watch. Other ones are pretty good. Abe Lincoln gave one of the most famous speeches after this battle of Gettysburg that he wrote on the train, and it only lasted about 2 minutes. One of the shortest speeches in history, but also one of the most famous. All right, you've probably heard the first line. It's really common for elementary schools to do a play with this speech. All right, now we're going to take a look at it, okay? So first thing, there's 2 pieces of paper. One is the actual reading itself, all right, and it has the address delivered at the dedication of the cemetery up at the top. The other sheet is understand it, all right? So that's got some multiple choice, and it has some questions. So I'm going to have you work either individually or with a small group, however you want to do it, all right, to look at these answers and try and interpret what does this speech mean in modern day language, all right? So we're going to skip the reading side of it for right now. We're only going to look at the multiple choice side, okay? For example, we'll get it up here on the board. Number 1 says, 407 years ago, our founding fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation. Now, the language that they use here is a little bit different from what we're used to. Thank you, Maggie. All right, we're looking at just the multiple choice side. Let me make mine a little bit bigger here.
All the while the kids are trying to get the body back so they can bury it safely, because remember how important burial practices.
So looking at the first one, so 407 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation. What is, anybody ever heard that term, fourscore?
Yes.
Score.
Oh, my friend, see, the girlfriend ain't here.
I know. Yeah, I can remember it late.
All right, if we Google it, score.
It was like 2 days late. But she's really doing okay, let's pause.
Score has a few definitions. For one that we usually know, this is like a points in a game. No, you just have to listen. You don't have to write anything just yet. Score, number of points in a game, right? A group or set of about 20, right? And then gain. So again, like points. All right, so that one there, the second definition, a set of 20, all right, is what Lincoln was talking about. He says 4 scores, so 4 times 20. All right, 4 times 20 is what gets?
4 times 20.
I know we're not a math class.
800. 4 times.
4 times how much?
Is it 80? I'm look, I don't know. Bag about to mess it up.
20, 40, 68.
There you go, Hunter.
Is it
Awesome.
80?
I know I
Well,
was true. Look, I thought I was dumb at first, bro.
Y'all see why I didn't go? I skipped that.
So 4 scores, so 80 years and 7 years. So 87 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, right? So which one of these choices best matches that 4 score and 7 years ago? So look at your multiple choice.
Can you bring that table and chair over just the desk over for me? Excuse me, table, it's disturbing you.
Your seat.
It's gonna be B, because remember we said 80, 87. All right, so 87 years ago, some people made a new country that brought us together. All right. For number 2, it says conceived in liberty. What does that word liberty usually mean? Any guesses? If not, we can Google it.
What was the question?
Liberty. What is liberty?
Liberty, ain't liberty basically liberty? Ain't justice or freedom?
Usually goes along with justice. Let's see our choices here. It says based on the idea of freedom, born in a free country, or taken from a free country. All 3 of these use that word free. Right? So liberty is free, kind of like freedom. Conceived kind of means created. Right? So based on the idea, born in a free country, taken. So most likely A is going to be the best choice. Based on the idea of a free country. All right? All right, so I'm going to come around and give you each like 2 to look at. All right, and I want you to come up with what do you think the right answer is? Which one do you think most closely matches that statement? All right, and then we'll kind of come back together and talk. I'll come up and talk with you individually as well. Just looking at the bold and see which one do you think matches. I'm going to give you 5 and 6. So just seeing which one do you think matches that bold statement, that's A or B, and this one has numbers. 5 and 6. I'm gonna give you 7.
Take, excuse me, upper B bathroom, nobody. Nobody. And 10, just so we can take a look at the whole mark, and then which choice do you think best matches that? Like a modern day interpretation. I gave you 9 and 10, I'm going to give you 11 and 12. So you guys can absolutely work together. He's got 9, 10, you have 11, 12. All right, look at the bold and tell me which one most closely matches. B. All right. That's what you think, sir. Give you a couple minutes, I'll come around and we can talk.
A and B. B and A.
I need help with this one.
Sure.
It says we are met in the battlefield, meaning like people are coming. I'm just confused. These two say the same thing.
Right, so they're after the battle has already
That's why,
happened. So
that's
it's
why
all-
it can be.
There you go, yep, so the battle already happened.
I don't like how both of them, that's all.
Yeah, perfect, yep, really good. Alright guys, how we coming? 9 and 10? Good, you got 9, perfect. Yeah. It's okay, go with your gut, go with your gut. Hunter. A, B, Very good, very good. Alright, can we make this a little bit smaller?
Mine was the speed, both of you.
5 and 6. Okay. Thank you.
So what?
So if you want to match your letters up with mine, up there on the board, this is your classmates that did these for you. Hunter, what'd you get? 11 and 12?
I got B.
B and A.
B and A?
Yep, B and A for 11 and 12.
You like it at that rate?
Alright, B for 13.
So, you got it.
Speed for 14?
Yep, and then C for 14. We gotta rub it in now.
All right, so I'm going to read you the modern interpretation of this speech. All right, that Abe Lincoln gave right after this Battle of Gettysburg, this turning point in the war. All right. It says, 87 years ago, some people made a new country that brought us together, based on the idea of freedom, and believed that all people are the same. Now we are fighting a war between the states, trying to see if we or any country who believes in this idea can continue to exist. We're standing on an important battlefield of that war. We have come to say that part of this field is holy because it is a final resting place for those who died so that our country can continue to exist. But in the bigger picture, we cannot make this place holy because the men who died here already did. Our people won't remember this ceremony, but they will remember the men who fought and died here. We who are still alive need to promise to continue to fight for the ideas that these men died for. And we need to promise that we will work on the great job ahead of us to remember the dead, and we will increase our efforts to save the ideas that they died for. We promise that these men who died here died for a good reason, and that our country under God's blessing shall be reborn in freedom. And the idea that all people should be involved in making their own rules and laws for themselves won't be destroyed. Okay, so one of the shortest presidential speeches in history, but also arguably the most famous. All right. Thank you to the snow day today. We have, well, the 2-hour delay. We have about 6 more minutes left. Using the paper that you have in front of you, all right, that's going to help you on your exit ticket. Questions about the Gettysburg Address. All right, so that you have that in front of you. Yep. So it's going to be most likely this one here. It is going to help you out.
With this one?
Yep. All right, so you can use that in your exit ticket. All right, for today, January 16th. Use that reading to help you get those answers right.
I didn't finish my warm-up, but I was playing with it.
I saw you're good. You can close out. It's really just to get you thinking about history again. How you doing? Doing good? Did you have a good weekend?
Huh?
Did you have a good weekend?
Oh,